serious, what is the creepiest or most unexplained thing that's happened to you that you still think about to this day? I fell asleep on the couch in my apartment in Detroit, 16th floor of a high-rise. Not a shady area, but right on the water/international border, rife with trafficking and the like. Sometime after midnight I had a feeling that something wasn't right and it woke me up. I opened my eyes, only to look directly at a man standing in my entry hallway, backlit by the hallway light. He slowly backed up upon seeing me awake, and closed the door. I ran to wake up my then boyfriend in the bedroom and we went out to the hall to see who it could have been. But there was no sign of him. Probably a neighbor who got the wrong door. But still the creepiest thing I've ever woken up to. It was the only night our front door wasn't locked, because that was always my habit. And I had fallen asleep early. The odds of that, plus being all the way on the 16th floor. Was it a lost neighbor? Someone checking door knobs that night? The what ifs scare me more than anything. I had a schnauzer that could hear a cat stalk across a Persian rug. The slightest noise could wake her from a slumber and set off her constant barking. She made a great tent companion while on backpacking trips. Bears, raccoons and skunks would all get fair warning if they came within range of our campsite. One morning we woke up from a night without interruptions in the backcountry of southwestern Colorado, and I found my tent's central guar line was no longer staked down by the aluminum stake that I had used, but instead by a piece of aspen branch that had been carved into what looked like a tiki statue. Nothing too ornate, but a snarling face with teeth had been carved from the bark, and it had obviously been heated in a fire to give it a brown color. My dog didn't make a sound and I apparently slept harder than I thought. I scrambled out of the tent and looked around the small alpine lake and saw no other campers nor any sign that people had been around. Cut my trip short and hauled ass the 8 miles back to my car. Not a single other car in the lot at the trailhead. I had a recurring nightmare of a pitch black parasite sucking the life fit of me. Sometimes it waited for me in dark corners to go to bed. My cats always slept on my bed during that time. For me it was a very stressful time. I got an itch at the place of my chest where I dreamed the parasite was sucking my life out of me. I got sick and felt a pea-sized lump. I went to my doc and they ordered a biopsy of that lump. As it turned out I had male breast cancer at the age of 28. After I got well again the dream never came back, and my cats slept in their places again and not on my bed. The dream was creepy enough. What it made for me were my cats protecting me. We had a rescue dog years back, terrier mix. We lived in the countryside on a wooded hillside and owned about 5 acres of woodland and rough fields, mostly wild. This dog loved to be up there chasing rabbits, but loved her home too, so would never be gone for very long. One day she went missing. We took our other dogs up there and searched thoroughly, but nothing. We had another friend bring his dogs. Nothing. We advertised, put up posters. We did little but search high and low for 6 days, but nothing. On the 6th day we had pretty much given up hope, but I decided to go up one last time because I had a hunch, a tickle in my belly, about one particular area which had already been thoroughly searched. I took a sickle and a pair of gardening gloves and hacked my way towards the center of a huge bramble patch. It was summer and all I could hear was birdsong and insects. But suddenly I heard a muffled yip. I called her name and then heard her again getting excited. She was deep underground in a rabbit warren. I stayed calling to her until help arrived. The local fire brigade were kind enough to come and help and advise, and we got her out eventually. She ran around like a demented muddy pup, and amazingly the vet said she was basically okay. Had probably been getting enough moisture from eating mud to keep her alive. I'm not generally a fanciful person, but I just knew in my knower she was there. No explanation for it. That's super strange, but somehow I have a pretty similar sixth sense type story. My oldest friend and I went to different high schools, but we kept up with holiday messages just to keep the friendship going. The only way I could text her was through my Facebook account, but since I only had the account on my old iPad, I only checked it every couple of weeks to check in or see if she sent me anything. So anyway, one day I just get this sudden urge to charge up my iPad and see if she sent me anything. I hadn't checked for around a month or so chances are she had, if just a how are things going type message. Once I charge it up though, Turns out she had sent me a message literally 30 minutes before. It turns out that she was sent to a mental health institute for youth after attempting suicide and she wanted to call and talk about it. I went through an incredibly similar situation a year or so previously, so we talked for hours about what she was going through. Now she's in a much better place. That was all around 3 years ago. I wonder if it was all just a coincidence. To check if she texted me at that point. I don't really know what to believe, but thank goodness I did check when I did. I've had a few sixth sense situations over my life. Mainly just having the strongest urge to MSG someone, even if I barely know them, just to check up. One person who I met only 2 weeks before had just had her house burned down. I've learned to just follow my gut when it comes to reaching out to anyone. I've shared this before, but I still think it's an interesting story. I was exploring the area behind my house shortly after we moved in. The area back there had once been a small quarry that had since filled with water. It was a pit of pond that supposedly went straight down 60 feet if you stepped into it. I was walking along the edge and I came across a backpack filled with old video game cartridges and a set of clothing just laying on the ground. They were for the N64, and we found this around 2004, so they were outdated. Next to it was a set of clothing. The clothes were laying on the ground, spread out, pants and shirt, so it looked like someone laying down. They looked like they'd been there a long time. Same with the backpack. I told my parents and they called the cops. There had been no reports of missing children or anything in the area. We never got an explanation, but it was weird. Edit, just to answer some questions. I don't think it was a prank. While we were new to the neighborhood, we were renters. Also, most of our neighbors were elderly. This happened in a rural Virginia town and I can't imagine anyone wasting cartridges like that, since most kids were lucky to have an N64. No people, adult or child, had been reported by families or the neighborhood as missing for years. They never searched the quarry because they never had any reason to think there was something wrong. My sister and I went out there every day for a year or so and just avoided that spot because I was creepy. As far as I know, they're still out there. Not creepy as such, more just unexplained. As a kid I was round a friend's house after school. It was a sunny day, so we went to the park near his house. Then through the woods there. His younger brother was with us as well. In the woods, beside the path, there were red berries on the ground. The berries had been arranged into 3 stick figures, which was weird as there were 3 of us. We got back to the house, and my friend and I decided to go back to take another look. His brother stayed at the house. When we got back there were only 2 stick figures. My friend snapped a photo on his phone, then kicked the berries and we ran back to the house. I have no idea what was going on. Was it just some kind of prank being pulled on us? Edit, changed floor to ground. I meant ground. I have no idea why I typed floor originally. I was driving home from work on a long, somewhat dark road. I'll admit I was tired and cold and just wanted to get home. Speed limit was 60 miles per hour and I was doing closer to 70. Suddenly, a girl with long blonde hair, a black coat with brown fur on the hood and jeans just showed up in front of my car. I knew there was another car to my left up ahead, but it was black and all I saw was that it was stopped. Before I saw her, I managed to maneuver around her. I was freaked out. I turned to a side street and stopped to figure out what was happening. Then a tall guy with a black coat and short hair gets out of the driver's side of the stopped car, grabbed her, dragged her to the car while she was fighting him, and put her back in the car. I called the police and gave them the description of the car and the direction it took off in. I never heard anything about it, and I have not stopped thinking about her since. It's been 2 years. Edit, just in case anyone is curious or could even know something. The location was Lincoln, US next to the high school. Jan/Feb 2019. The car was a new black sports, maybe, car with the tail light going all the way across the back of the car. George Washington Highway. Weird that she was standing in the road. My first thought was that she might have jumped from the car and was trying to escape kidnappers, but if that was the case I feel like she would have been running down the road and screaming or something, not standing in the middle. Right after quarantine started I got a package in the mail. It was addressed to my name and my address and contained one pink starburst and nothing else. To this day, I have no idea who sent it or why. The return address was a vacant office space across the country. Edit. I did not eat it. The postmark matched the address I believe, but it's been so long I'm not positive. There is one friend I'm thinking could have done it, but she has since passed away. It was not sent from overseas. It uses my full name, which I don't go by for anything except legal documents. I have a nickname I use almost exclusively. We had only been in this house for 8 months before I got this, and we don't really know our neighbors. And my Amazon account is under my husband's information. And thank you for the awards. When I was in 3rd grade I moved to a new town and into a new house. We lived in a camper in the backyard of the house while we renovated it. It was a pretty old house. Anyway, during renovation we found all sorts of stuff in the walls. Old bottles, old pair of glasses, letters, old newspapers, old pictures of children in school clothes. It was a 2-story house and the stairs were kind of a focal point for all sorts of creepy stuff. So once you got to the top of the stairs there was a little landing before it went into 2 bedrooms. At night we would always leave the light on in the landing in case we had to get up to use the bathroom. Me and one brother shared a room and the other room was for our older brother. I refused to sleep upstairs due to how creeped out I was. So I always slept downstairs on the couch. One weekend my sister, who is older than both my brothers, came to visit and was in my oldest brother's bedroom alone. As we were all at school and my mum was at work. As she was sitting up there watching TV she heard footsteps coming up the stairs and called out as she had thought my mum was home early from work. No response other than the footsteps turning around and heading back down the stairs. When she got up the look there was no one home and all doors locked. It doesn't stop there. My oldest brother was left home alone for a week while me and my other brother and mom and dad went on a week-long vacation. Naturally he had his girlfriend over for a couple nights to keep him company. One night she got up to pee around 3 AM and went downstairs to the bathroom where she said she heard children whispering. A couple nights later around 3 to 4 AM the GF woke my brother saying someone was in the house. They heard footsteps coming up the stairs. Since the light was on in the landing, they could see a shadow underneath the door, like someone was standing there, and the doorknob began to shake. Luckily it was locked. They both started to freak out, and my brother jumped up out of bed. We had some of those dumb display samurai type swords that aren't even sharp, and he grabbed one of those and went towards the door. They heard more footsteps running down the stairs, and he bravely or stupidly followed down the stairs where he was met with an empty house. All windows and doors closed and locked. He called the police but nothing came of it. My grandma and I both saw a dead person in our laundry room once. So, the laundry connected to the kitchen by a doorway. The doorway connected to the living room. Too. One afternoon, Grandma needed a hamper. So I followed her to the laundry. We saw the dead person. As soon as we stepped foot in that doorway, it looked to be about my height. I was 6 or 7ish, and totally black. Not as in a black person, but a literal black coating on its skin. It was slumped near the washing machine. We only saw it for a split second. Enough time to register that it was there, and then it was gone. I remember my grandma saying, "Did you see that?" and laughing it off. She got the hamper and did her thing, and I just avoided the kitchen for a while. And on a semi-related note, I used to have the freakiest nightmares in that house. I had nightmares so graphic, so often, that my pediatrician wanted me to see a therapist. Ninja edit. I'm not a wholehearted believer in ghosts, but I do still wonder what it was. My grandma always describes it as the garbage bag, because it was about that big, and slouched in the corner like trash. Once I was hired to load firewood into my aunt's basement. She lives alone, and left the basement door open for me while she went out. I usually swing the interior basement door as wide as I can when I walk in, and the door almost never closes completely, but once I heard it close, and when I was about to grab another load I saw that the deadbolt locked. When I walk in my arms are filled with firewood, so I won't be able to lock it myself. Looked out the window and checked the garage to see if she came home, but she wasn't there. The door itself was enclosed, so no wind to shut it. I tried various ways of slamming the door so it would lock by itself, but nothing worked. It's an isolated house, so I would have heard someone drive up, and it's highly unlikely someone walked over just to lock the door and leave and time it while I was piling up firewood, and there's wooden steps, so I would have heard someone walking down them. It's the only time I've seen a deadbolt lock itself in my life. My brother had a similar experience of things moving in an unexplained way. He was working at our house because he kept a vintage car in our garage. It was a detached garage in a gated yard, and he was totally alone at the house. He's working away, and all of a sudden his toolbox moved across the floor. He was totally freaked out and packed up and left as soon as possible. That house was odd. It was Edwardian and quite big. We had a couple of other odd happenings. A friend was very scared of an attic bedroom in that house. It did have a weird feel about it, and nobody ever wanted to sleep in there. My father-in-law also saw a figure walk behind him in a mirror, and I saw a figure in our bedroom. It was a child standing by my bed. We have only lived in modern houses since, and I'm back to being skeptical about hauntings and hoping all of those events can be explained. We managed to buy a house recently. I told the family while we were looking, the best thing about buying a new construction was that we wouldn't have to worry about ghosts, and we would get to be the ones who got to haunt the place after we passed. I woke up in the bath at a very specific time, like 5:45, twice, 10 years in between. Water was getting cold. I was naked. No memory of getting there. Some fragments of like seeing my own hand turning on the tap. No drugs or alcohol or even medication involved. The worst thing was the fear. When I woke up, I felt an inexplicable, almost primordial dread. Lasted for hours. I was shaking. Couldn't function. Still freaks me out thinking about it. Might have been 3 times, I can't remember properly. I still get the shakes from the memory. Edit to at, oh gosh you guys. Thank you so much for the awards. My first. Maybe around age 14. Early 90s. We were traveling from TX up to Tacoma. Wow. We were about out of money. Almost out of gas. No food. Stuck in Chico, California. I sat in the car while mom took my younger sisters to the restroom at a gas station. I was riddled with anxiety about our situation, and looking down. The car door opened and I looked up. A lady that looked like a brown-haired bratty mom sat in the seat and faced me. She said, "It seems like you're down on your luck. Take this and give it to your mom. Tell her to pay it forward someday to someone who needs it." I looked down into my hand and there was a $100 bill. I looked up and she had disappeared. Nowhere in the parking lot. Just vanished. I cried. When mom came back, I told her what happened and she cried. We got gas. There was a guy selling oranges on the side of the road, and we bought a bag and went to a local park that had a part of the river with a little spillway dam, and went swimming and ate oranges for a couple of hours before getting back on the road. I never saw the lady again, but she saved us, and we did make it up to Tacoma to start our new life. Thank you, stranger lady with invisible powers. We never forgot your kindness. I used to work in a nursing home where I cared for dementia patients. Every patient on the hall I worked on would steal spoons from dinner to give to the kids because they like shiny things. It got to the point where once a week I'd have to go through everyone's room to take back the spoons. I asked the patients about the kids many times, but never got a good answer. I'd hear things like they just live here, or they stand outside in the snow and look in the windows, or hear my friends who visit. Wouldn't be so weird if they all didn't do it, but it was everyone. The ones who were still capable of speaking anyways. One time at 3 AM one of my patients started screaming, so I ran in her room and found her laying in bed, seemingly fine. I asked what was wrong, and she said, "That boy is here again and won't get out of my closet. I'm scared." Like me too. Dells, what the heck? In college I was roommates with my childhood best friend for about 2 years. We are very trusting with each other. We would go into each other's rooms freely and grab whatever we needed. To borrow clothes, hairbrush, perfume, etc. No questions asked. Just a knock if we were in the room to let each other know we were going in. Our rooms are across the hall from each other, with the hall facing the kitchen. So from the kitchen you could see down the hall where our rooms were. At the time my friend had very long black hair and she's very fair skinned. One day, I get home from work with my headphones in my ear talking to my mom about my day. I go in the kitchen and grab a snack. I see her walk out of her room and go into mine, leave my room and go back into hers. She looked like she just got out the shower. Her hair was soaking wet and she was wrapped in a white towel. Her long black wet hair is what I distinctly remember. Also, she made no eye contact with me, but I didn't think it was weird. I didn't say anything to her since borrowing each other's stuff was normal. I'm still on the phone with my mom, so I don't think much of it. I grab my snack, hang up with my mom, and go into my room to watch TV. I figured she's getting ready to go somewhere and we'll talk later. About an hour passes and I go to the kitchen to clean the plate I ate on. I see her in the kitchen making something to eat, and I tell her, "Hey, what did you grab from my room earlier? Did you find what you needed?" She looks at me like if I was crazy and says, "What are you talking about?" So I say, "Yeah, earlier when I got home I saw you go into my room and grab something. Did you get what you needed?" Sorry, I didn't say hi, I was on the phone with my mom. She asks me if I'm sure I saw her. I said yes, 100%. She tells me to grab my phone and go to her car as soon as possible. That she needs to show me something. I had my phone on me and she grabbed my keys from the kitchen counter along with her purse and she drags me out the front door and into her car. She then tells me she got home maybe 5 minutes before we started talking. She had spent the night at her boyfriend's and hadn't been home all day, so she has no idea who I saw. I'll never forget the look on her face when she told me this. Complete fear and panic. She called the cops and they came along with the apartment manager. They checked the whole apartment and found no one. Nothing amiss. And they were in there a while checking every nook and cranny. The manager got maintenance to change our locks and gave us new keys that day. My friend then tells me that for a week she'd been hearing noises from her bathroom like bottles moving. And when she went to check she found nothing. I have no idea who I saw going in and out of our rooms, but it looked exactly like my friend. I don't drink or do drugs, not on meds. This was in 2014, and I still freak out when I think about it. If you enjoy watching these videos, make sure to hit the subscribe button and like this video. Thanks.